I recently started playing a game called Foundry. It's a factory builder and logistics brain teaser, just like another game I've played called Satisfactory. These two games have the same basic premise. You're a person, or a robot, on a planet tasked with building a factory that may or may not be a spaghetti mess. While these two games are similar in many ways, I think they offer something different enough to justify playing both. In this video, I will show you some of the similarities and differences in these two great factory games. Let's go! Hi, it's Drax. This is the part at the beginning of the video that everyone skips. For those of you that didn't jump forward, enjoy watching and listening. Might you consider supporting me further by visiting my Ko-fi or clicking on the join button on this video? Alright, that's it. Back to the video. Disclaimer. I've played both games. I love both games. I'm not an expert in either game. This list is based on my experience, and that may vary from yours. My goal is not to show you which is better, but simply highlight why both are very good games. Here's my list, in no particular order. Let's start with the similarities. Both games have conveyor belts. This is the main way of moving materials. While there are some differences in the way in which each deals with belts, the concept is the same. The way in which Foundry deals with moving materials vertical is a bit different by using ramp belts and elevators instead of Satisfactory's poles and vertical belts. To be honest, I prefer the Satisfactory way, but again, personal preference. Pipes! Yep, there is liquid movement in both games. I think there's a lot of room for discussion on who does it better here. I like the simplicity of the Foundry piping when it comes to gauging fluid movement, but I think Satisfactory does it a bit better in terms of laying out the pipe. Playing with piping in both games, it's just fun. Assembling and refining is very similar in both. I would say the start of the game, in many ways, it's identical. Raw materials are mined, sent to machines to be refined, and then made into something that's used down the line. These two games share this because they're both factory games. Both games have created a system that is not only pleasing to the eye, but just damn fun to build out. Power, in concept, is the same in both games. You find some raw materials, either bio or fossil, and then feed them into a machine that turns the raw resource into power. In the start of the game, both use biofuel to get the factories up and running. Power poles are used in both, where Satisfactory uses them exclusively to move power. Foundry uses a mix of poles and foundations to connect your machines. As the game progresses, there are some differences here and there in terms of how you produce the power, but the output is the same. I would argue that power is one of the many reasons to play both. The logistics side of power in both games is fun. Housing your factory is pretty similar as well. You can build walls and doors, you can choose to enclose your factory or go the more open design. You can paint walls and use the creative side of your brain to make the factory footprint you've always dreamed of. I would say that both Foundry and Satisfactory do a fine job of giving you the tools to make a good-looking factory. Foundry and Satisfactory both have research progression. However, they go about it differently. Foundry has more of a straightforward research tree. You pick what you want to research, and then you construct science materials to feed into a machine to progress the research forward. The process in Foundry reminds me of how Dyson's Sphere project does it. I like it. Satisfactory is similar, as you will need to produce and gather materials from around the world to unlock new items. Instead of just one research tree, Satisfactory has multiple methods of moving the game forward. A bit more complex for sure, but very well done. Both games have some semblance of story. I'm not here to give away any spoilers, so I'm not going to go into details. I wanted to add this here because I've heard people ask, what's the point of these factory games? I think hearing that there's a story helps some people get into the game. For me, story or not, these games are fun because you get a chance to build cool factories. Those are just some of the similarities of both. Now let's talk about the differences. We'll start with the map. Satisfactory map is static and has a set number of biomes with trees, plants, and rocks. There's water throughout the map, and swimming is limited. Yes, the maps are predefined, but because of the map's large size, it's never felt small to me. There are pluses to having a static map as a developer, and they have built out some very nice biomes. Rich and full of life, each has a unique feel. Resources are unlimited, and there are many areas throughout the map to mine and harvest. In this modern day when everything is procedurally generated, it's nice to see a well-built and thought-out map. Foundry's map is procedurally generated, just like Minecraft. You can enter a seed at the start. No map is the same. There are a number of biomes with different trees, plants, and rocks. You'll find water throughout the map, you can swim and build underwater. The map size is limitless and just goes on and on. The resources are, however, limited, and you'll need to branch out to find new resources to mine and harvest. The underwater and below ground aspect of the map are a nice add, and make the world seem bigger and more full. Because of the randomness of the map though, it can sometimes be challenging to find that perfect start. Mining in Satisfactory is pretty straightforward. There are nodes located on the surface throughout the map. Finding those are done by scanning. Once found, you can extract by hand, but you'll build machines at the resource node and then the real extraction begins. There are multiple nodes throughout the world, and as I mentioned, they produce an infinite amount of resources. In Foundry, the resource extraction is a bit different. The nodes are scattered throughout the world. You locate them with a scanner, just like in Satisfactory. They're found both on and below the surface. In most cases, you'll need to dig or excavate using explosives to get to the resource to begin the extraction. In some cases, the resources may be underwater. Cool. You'll then build a machine to extract the resources. The resources are limited, as I mentioned, which means you'll be on a constant hunt for more. Satisfactory uses grid-based building. All structures are crafted by you and then placed on an invisible grid. Laying foundations and placing buildings is easy, and for a boxy guy like me, it's very satisfying. You're limited to above ground building. Honestly, the ease of building and grid snapping and intuitive UI make building the perfect factory so much fun. Foundry is voxel based, like our old favorite Minecraft. There are many types of materials you can build and place. Just like with Satisfactory, you can craft and place items as well. You can build up and also dig down. Building underground and in the water is cool, and I really wish Satisfactory had this option. Voxel building is my preferred method, as I'm a sucker for building with dirt. At the time of this video, Satisfactory has creatures to fight and Foundry does not. I've never been a fan of hostels in building games, but this is a personal preference. You can turn these hostels in Satisfactory to passive, so they leave you alone, which is very nice. Foundry has a roadmap for the future which mentions creatures, but not hostile ones. I have some ideas here on a couple I'd like to see added to the game. You know, there's just not enough giraffes in games these days. Seriously though, animals as part of the ecosystem would just be cool. I've always thought some kind of methane farm would be a great resource to harvest. As we close, I think the thing to remember is that both games at their core are about making cool factories. While they're similar in many ways, I think you can see from this list that they are different enough to consider playing both. I'd love to hear your thoughts on both games. Is there something I missed? Leave me a comment below. As always, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. The video's over. Now it's time for you to do your part. Follow, like, and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.